Kia ora, g'day, welcome back. This is one of those videos from sometime last year that I got asked to do a reaction to. Slowly starting to chip away at the extensive list of reactions. And this is just another one of those videos. So this is the Roberts Ridge John Chapman story on the Antihero podcast, or at least the podcast that used to be called Antihero podcast. So that gives you an indication of how long ago I got given this reaction request. And let's jump in.
Try to act like it didn't happen, although we all know it did.
JV team for life.
Right, yeah. And I got a problem with that. You do not get a Medal of Honor for the totality of your actions. That's not what a Valor Award is for. A Valor Award isn't for
that's a leadership award, right?
That's right. That's a leadership award.
It's the difference between a Bronze Star in the combat zone and a V device. Like, yeah. WTF, that doesn't exist for the Medal of Honor.
In a weird way, I would even argue it's maybe...
That piece, I have no idea. I don't know what they're talking about in terms of, I guess it sounds like the distinguishing points between a Medal of Honor and a Medal of Valor or Bronze Star or whatever other medals and stuff they have. Medal of Honor, my limited understanding without having any sort of confirmed or verified definition, I put it at the same level as a Victoria Cross for just extraordinary valor, bravery, courage, whatever you want to call it, in the face of basically almost certain death. Like the percentage of you surviving that particular event in that moment in time, whether you get a Medal of Honor or it's a Victoria Cross, depending on where you come from, are so extreme that the likelihood of you surviving is like minimal, or whatever it is, single digit percent, 1%, maybe even less than that. And so extremely courageous, brave, valor, all those sorts of things. What they're talking about, it's a leadership award or whatever, for whatever it is that they're specifically talking about. Obviously, they've been having a chat before this video is kicked into here. I don't know. But to me, in my opinion, you're a bad mofo if you get awarded a Medal of Honor or a Victoria Cross because your actions have just been right at the, people talk about the tip of the spear, they've been right at that pointy end where there's literally millimeters between life and death for that individual. So I have done a reaction to the video recording of John Chapman and the Medal of Honor. We should have got 2 Medal of Honors from what I understand in terms of his actions carried out on that day on Roberts Ridge. But I was told that this video would give more insight and clarity in and around what's taken place. So apparently there's been a whole bunch of stuff, I'm not sure of the details, where there's, you know, maybe people have been recognized for certain things that probably shouldn't have, from what I understand, and maybe they've been awarded certain things where, again, they shouldn't have. So anyway, let's get back into this.
It lands somewhere in between as a somewhat gray area, but it definitely does not fall on a Valor Award for valorous actions in combat. Totality and intent mean nothing.
Look, I know that he went on the objective. I know that he went into harm's way, but
that's your job.
This is show me the valor.
Maybe that's what they're talking about here. Maybe they're talking about somebody that's been awarded a Valor Award for the same Roberts Ridge incident.
Right.
And I followed John after John cleared the bunker, and I shot at a threat, but I didn't eliminate it. And then I ducked behind the boulder the rest of the time until I popped smoke and I got my team out of there.
People aren't going to want to hear this. That's your job. We gave a guy an award for doing his job. Anyway, all right.
Interesting. So I heard him mention John Chapman. I don't think what they've just been describing there is anything to do with John Chapman. I think it's pretty clear from the video footage. John Chapman is one bad mofo. Rest in peace to that man. John Chapman, Medal of Honor, sorry. And yeah, rest in peace to that man. Sounds like they're talking about somebody else that may have been awarded an award for following along behind. As Brent rightly pointed out, You joined the military, you joined a particular unit, you went through a selection process, etc., etc. You were successful, got selected to go there, and you went and did your job. Yeah, unless you do something just so out the gate, like what John Chapman did, rest in peace to that man, or people like Mark Donaldson or Ben Robert Smith or Willie Apiata, list goes on, Charles Upham, etc., etc. People in the past like Victoria Cross winners, other Medal of Honor winners. What's his name? Oh, bloody hell, I did a reaction to him as well. Anyway, it'll probably come to me later on. Benavidez, that guy back in Vietnam, and his Lincoln actions and what he did. Unless you've done something like that, that's where you get the highest recognition possible for valor, courage, bravery. The list goes on.
You ready? You ready to kick this thing off?
Let's do it.
Drew.
Yep.
Ready.
Hit record.
I sure do. It's on.
All right.
We've covered it. We've covered it before to some extent, but I'm really looking forward to this one. It's kind of back in the news because of the Medal of Honor Museum going up in Texas, and them not having Chapman as a main display. We've covered it in the live. It's been
highly requested.
Yeah, it's been a huge topic of discussion in the special op.
Sorry, excuse me, eating. I wonder what that's all about. Medal of Honor display. John Chapman doesn't have a prominent place in there. Why is that? How could that? How could he not have a prominent place in your Medal of Honor display, or is it like remembrance hall of those that have been awarded the Medal of Honor? How does John Chapman, rest in peace, not have a prominent position within, I assume, the company of other Medal of Honor winners? Is that what they're saying?
It's been
highly requested.
Yeah, it's been a huge topic of discussion in the special operations community. So it's great to have our next guest on, who was there and watched it all, and so much more. We'll let him get into that and tell his side of the story. But with us, we have Rob Harrison. He is a retired Chief Master Sergeant with the Air Force. He was also a direct support operator on Grim 3-2, which was the Spectre gunship flying around that evening on Roberts Ridge. Rob, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate both of you having me on.
Literally bird's eye view, being on one of those gunships and seeing everything play out. I wonder if the footage from John Chapman's actions on that day on Roberts Ridge were taken from this guy's gunship, maybe. I don't know.
It seems a bit unfortunate in a way, because most of us typically tend to subscribe to the quiet professional, and you normally wouldn't even be talking about this sort of stuff unless it's just straight up from a historical standpoint. But I feel like there's certain members in the community right now that are kind of preying off of everybody else's quiet professionalism, and unfortunately, that's kind of what brings us to this situation and why I'm sitting before you guys today.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. Other people within our community are preying off the quiet professionalism of others and benefiting from it. And
that is a cool way of putting it. I think it suits and fits in with those that will choose to try to, I suppose, take advantage in some way, shape or form, whether it's for clout or popularity or book deals or whatever, to portray themselves as having done certain things or done things that are just so incredible and amazing, so far out the gate, or so far like, wow, that should be made a movie of. And there's probably literally maybe a handful of things that you would think a movie should actually be made out of. Like Jamie Pinnell and the lads in the Intercontinental Hotel, stuff that happened there. Be great if a movie is made of that. This Roberts Ridge, with regards to John Chapman and his actions, the people may not want to see a movie like that about it. I would. I reckon there would probably be lots of people that would want to see it, just like a movie's been made out of Black Hawk Down and a whole bunch of other things. So anyway, how he described it, people, I think, preying on or clinging to probably the fact that there is a vast majority of people that have been involved in some hectic stuff, and they maintain the line in terms of their quite professional approach of what they choose to talk about and or not talk about. I'd love it if I was involved in some sort of movie type contact or activity. Like, that would be awesome. But I haven't been. And the fact that I've been fortunate enough to deploy with the Australian Regiment and enjoyed that time, etc., like, that's cool. Like, but it's not, like I've shared bits and pieces about that when I've been fortunate to be interviewed before, but like I've shared, there was nothing amazing or spectacular and stuff in there. And the worst part was that there were no WMDs to be found, and nobody found them in that year when we went in 2003, which is disappointing considering all the intelligence and the narrative that was being pushed that we were being presented with. So we thought we were going to have a much greater impact in a positive way and for the right reasons. But just left more questions than answers, to be fair, at the end of that. Anyway, people preying on the quiet professionalism of others, in the sense that I think what he's getting at is those people not speaking up, not talking about things, even if they were actually there, involved with other people who may be more vocal about either what they did or didn't do, or what they saw, or what happened, didn't happen. Excuse me. And potentially maybe they've been embellishing on those events themselves, possibly, whereas they know that some of the others aren't going to call them out about it, or aren't going to come online and go, that's a crock of rubbish. At the same time, there are some people that have come out and that will challenge. So when they say gone are the days of the quiet professional and it's more like Desperate Housewives or whatever these days, is funny to me, but also probably a little sad too, that will forever be with the SF community, regardless of which country you're from. It will rub off on, obviously, it's there in the US. It'll be part of the UK. It'll be part of Australia. It'll be no doubt part of NZ as well. Although you don't really hear too much about NZ stuff in the media, thankfully, in regards to, I don't know if you'd call them bickerings, but like this sort of stuff. He said sort of thing. Anyway, hopefully makes sense what I'm talking about. If not, too bad.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, I couldn't have put it any better. And we'll go down the list. Tim Kennedy, Rob O'Neill, Marcus Luttrell. It's. And if people don't come out and say something, it's in a weird way. Then they just get away with it. And when I say like getting away with it,
And I don't know if those guys are getting away with anything in particular. A lot has been said about it, and those are other reaction videos which I'll get to, which are in my list, which I initially was just going to stay away from that stuff, but I think I can just still react to them in my own way and share my thoughts. And I have done some other little reactions to John Shrek McPhee and some Tim Kennedy stuff from their times, from their interviews, bits and pieces of their interviews on the Sean Ryan Show. But anyway, so I'll get to those eventually, just like I'm getting around to this one.
Inexcusable because we hold the military at such a high honor. So they want to believe anytime the military or a military member comes out and says, this is what happened, you better believe that's what happened. And you better believe if it's not, that we will hold ourselves accountable. We have to police our own, which is part of what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think, and if there's a message out there, the majority of us, and I would say, greater than the 90th percentile, like the majority of us are all exactly what you just described.
Overwhelming majority. Yeah,
absolutely. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a few bad apples, and that's literally why I'm out here speaking out. Enough was enough, and damn it, I'm not going to roll over and watch this happen without speaking truth to power. And
a few bad apples. Look, I've shared on other videos. A few bad apples get through anywhere. I don't care what organization you're in. Special forces, community, corporate organizations, police, first responders, hospitals, iwi, A whole bunch of stuff like bad apples get through everywhere and start to blink and fester and corrupt what's there in places like how they've spoken about the overwhelming majority in those units are better than that. I think that's the case personally. More my personal experience and observation is that that is the case. And in terms of bad apples, if units like that were so rife and the majority is more towards the bad apple side and less towards the overwhelming majority being, good, decent, quiet professionals, people of integrity, etc., then I just think those units would struggle to exist. They would struggle to continue to function because that type of information would spread like wildfire through the Defence Force itself to the point whereby people would be like, well, that's not what I want to be a part of. That's not why I joined. That's not what I've heard about the unit. Like, I heard that they do this and that they act in this way with these values and this level of integrity and professionalism, etc. That's what I want to join. And so because that is the case, my experience, my observation, the overwhelming majority, hence why you still get, and I think you'll always get, people looking to put up their hand and volunteer to go serve in a place like that, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, it doesn't help when it's tainted by a few rotten eggs, essentially.
And that's why I'm here, and that's why this is easy. You can ask me any question. If I can tell you, I will. If I know it, I will tell you. If I don't, I will. I will not be able to tell you. Like, it's just this thing frustrates me, but at the same time, it's just important to get the truth out there and do it in a manner where I can try to show respect as the best I can to the people that were involved with the mission, but at the same time hold each other accountable. So
besides just setting the record straight, did the Medal of Honor museum drama, if you want to call it that, is that part of the reason for coming out, or that really has nothing to do with it? This was just a mission that you were on regardless, or was that part of the reasoning?
I would tell you that that's probably the spark that starts to smoke me out. What in January?
It's interesting, eh? There will be. So here's a guy, wasn't on the ground, but is in the overhead overwatch airship, whatever you want to call it, gunship, and could see what was going on, and likely due to comms could probably hear what was happening as well. And when he said that the Medal of Honor, I think, ceremony or the place that he attended, he used the word, what did he say? That was part of what smoked him out, got him to the point whereby he's like, yeah, enough is enough. Like, I wasn't on the ground, but I saw what happened. I was in the gunship that was providing overwatch to this and support. And I could see and I could hear who was where, who did what, and when. And maybe he's just had a gutful of people or persons trying to say that they did X, Y, Z, and therefore should be awarded and or received an award for things that, like Brent Tucker said, were no more than just doing your job. I don't think anybody, I think most people don't expect to be given an award just for doing their job. I think people would be more than happy for others to receive an award when they do something, above and beyond, or just Lincoln, some people might call crazy, but just incredibly brave and courageous. And no issue with, people receiving individual recognition for what they did in those moments, in those events. I think that's, a great thing to do. But not everybody did those or did specific enough great things in order to receive the same level of award as somebody else, if that makes sense. And it sounds like that's maybe where this guy's going in relation to John Chapman, Medal of Honor, in regards to the Roberts Ridge gunfight and stuff that happened there.
I learned based off of Lori Chapman's Lori Chapman Longfritz, her post, when I saw that, like, my goodness, the museum is actually backtracking and they're not following through on what they had said initially. Those of us that had been involved were loosely tracking that the museum was coming and there was likely to be a display for John. And then all of a sudden, those people that had engaged with Lori a year prior were no longer affiliated with the board on the museum or their process, operations, whatever it is. Those people had disappeared, and you look in and, like, lo and behold, you're like, who's risen to the top of the board and so on. You start to, like, really question, all right, well, what are your motives here? Because, like, I know that the team had credited Chappie with saving them, and now all of a sudden you're not going to do this. And
Wow. I was just starting to wonder, like, what's going on. It sounds like there's going to be this thing for John Chapman, as there should be. And then I was wondering, what is there? Have things changed, and there's no longer going to be a display for John Chapman? I mean, if there isn't, who is the display for? Like, if they're not recognizing John Chapman's actions, whose actions are they recognizing instead of, and or maybe not instead of, maybe it's in addition to. I get it. I'm only 11 minutes into, well, was it 11 minutes into this? But I think some of that, 2 or 3 minutes of that, was a lot of the advertising and stuff at the start. I'm probably just going to leave that in there because I was trying to skip through it, hitting the skip button. So let's see. This is a 2.5 hour long podcast. I'm not going to get through it in one sitting anyway.
Raised hell about it through letters and reaching out to congressmen and so forth. And I got this canned response back from the museum, the CEO, Chris Cassidy.
Okay.
And the canned response had stuff about essentially the pro rata, where they had the equitable distribution of representation.
Correct.
And then they had the word count, that Chappie was in the top 25% of the word count. And I'm like, well, the question was asked, point blank, will there not be a dedicated display to John? The answer was no. John's part of the permanent display. Will there not be a dedicated display to Slap? Yeah. And it's not just a dedicated display. Like, you walk out the intro door and you can go left or right at the museum. When you go right, following just a clockwise pattern, the whole museum is laid out in a circle. You see the likes of Audie Murphy, Roy Benavidez, and Britt Slavinsky. It's all in the opening 50 feet. Like, as soon as you walk into the entry.
Roy Benavidez, that's the name. I'm glad I remembered the surname. I couldn't remember the blinking first name, but yeah, what a legend.
Way of the museum.
Not sure I'd put all of them in the same category, but we will get to that in the segment.
I don't know who the other two guys are that he mentioned, but I recognize the name Roy Benavidez, and hearing some of the stuff that he did and was involved in, far out, awesome. So yeah, I'm not sure what Brent means. Maybe he's talking about one or two of the other guys. I'd be surprised if he didn't think that Roy Benavidez should be there. I'm not sure what Brent is implying by there, but it sounds like he's going to come back to it at some point in this podcast that's been done.
Won't dive too early on that. I was trying to see, because if I'm wrong and I can't think of it, I will get destroyed, and I hate to say rightfully so. But you being an Air Force guy, you know what? I'm going to put this on you. You should know better, not me. I was an Army guy. How many Air Force Medal of Honor winners were there in the global war of terrorism on the war?
One.
You're telling
John Chapman.
You're telling me. I know they were trying to be equitable, and I understand what they were saying by equitable. If no one knows what they were, I guess, trying to say, they took the total number of awards and in services and made sure there was representation equally. But that just doesn't. And what I mean by that is, if you'd have put just Chapman in there, right, he would have had 100% representation of Air Force during the GWAT. and no one else has that percentage of representation. But it's a crazy number because it's
one of one.
And so the flip side of that would be to say the Air Force literally had one and only one Medal of Honor winner during the GWAT, and he's not even in there. That's crazy to me. He's one of one.
That is crazy. How? Wow. Why would you leave Air Force, Navy, Army, whatever aside, all of that out of the equation? Why is he left out? Why is he left out of that museum? Maybe it's changed now because my reaction to this is bloody Johnny come lately. But that's mad. He is the only one from the Air Force during the Global War on Terror, only Air Force guy to be awarded a Medal of Honor. That is huge. And they're saying that he's not in the museum with these other Medal of Honor recipients. Crazy.
That already makes him special. That already makes it amazing. And
oh, by the way, it's all recorded.
And it's recorded. That's right. That's another great point. And it's the...
Did a reaction to that. I think it's the only, the first or the only Medal of Honor footage ever captured. Well, that was the title, at least anyway, words to that effect of the video that I reacted to.
The first Medal of Honor that was ever recorded.
There you go.
And now, of course, it was recorded on I.
I thought it was only, but yeah, must have said first.
Sorry. So it's special on them to kind of conveniently leave it out for whatever. And I'm not saying their reasons are wrong. If we're being honest, like,
what were the reasons?
They said they had an equitable share of so the percentages were equal based on representation for each service, and
percentages are equal for each service. I don't understand. That doesn't make sense. How does the percentage become equal if you leave out the Air Force with their one and only, by the sounds of things, Medal of Honor recipient during the Global War on Terror? Is it because he is 100% of the service, or what? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. How is that? I'm confused in terms of how that's fair.
There are other, I don't know this for a fact, but I will say this. There are other variables involved when it comes to making a permanent display. And I'm just spitballing here, but I know things like this exist. When you give up a display, usually they're going to ask you, in fact, I actually know this to be true in this scenario as well. They ask you to give up artifacts and memorabilia of your loved one to go on that display. And when there's displays, there may not just be this one.
I'd say just get a replica done. Like, just, if you've got artifacts belonging to your loved one, and rightly so, you wouldn't want to give those up. I would assume the family, that is, the surviving family members, get a replica made. Like, the people asking for the artifact for the display, use your money, not the family, to have to go do it, and say, could we use this to create and or make a replica of this for the display? You hold on to, the family should keep the originals of any of those artifacts. Obviously, if they want to, I assume they would want to. And the display should get a blinking replica. Doesn't seem that hard.
There may be one at the, now I'm kind of spitballing, but if you think about it like this, there's one at the Air Force, there's one at the 724, there's one at this Medal of Honor Museum. When all these museums are asking for artifacts at some point, you're only going to have so many of his uniforms, so many of his beret, so many of his, that the family wants to give up. And at some point,
again, I'd say don't give up any of it. Just do get a replica made. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. That's about 30 minutes. I'm just going to do these 30-minute ones because I don't know that I'll sit here going through this. Otherwise, I'll end up going down a massive rabbit hole, and this will end up being a blinking 20-hour reaction. So to spare you and to spare me too, I'll cut this there. If anybody was wondering what it was that I was eating, it was just Cocoa Pops with Nutri-Grain. It's all gone now. Like, people still ask, what is it that I'm eating? What's my nutrition like? Like, I eat whatever I want. I'm not restricted in terms. I don't restrict myself in terms of I can't eat carbs or can only eat protein or whatever. I'll eat it all. Protein, carbs, fats, not necessarily all good stuff. I eat junk food. I eat good food. So yeah, just put in some work consistently, and I can manage my weight well enough. For those that have asked that question multiple times in terms of what I do. So anyway, we'll leave this one here, and I'll come back and do another reaction to it on another day and time. In the meantime, I'll probably start doing some reactions to some of the other backlog of videos that I haven't done yet. So appreciate your time as always. That being said, message is always the same. Regardless of any challenges, difficulties that you may be facing and or going through, man, keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, and just take one day at a time. Know and trust that things can do and will get better as long as you want them to. You have to want them to get better, otherwise you potentially just stay in the same place or things get worse. So my experience, if you want things to get better, things generally do, and the sun will shine again. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. So just keep chipping away at it. Those better days are always closer than you and I think. Anyway, as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there is a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.